Fashion house Balenciaga has been heavily criticised over a photo shoot showing child models posing with fetish-themed teddy bears.
Balenciaga.
The Balenciaga.
From a multi-million-dollar fashion corporation that dominated the industry to being labelled as child predators, all in a matter of a few days. Where did it go wrong? How is this possible? How can a company that focused solely on bringing futuristic fashion trends to light turn so evil? Was it due to one grave mistake, or multiple acts of distrust that went unnoticed but eventually came back to haunt them? Balenciaga is an extremely old company, but it definitely wasn't as prominent as it is now, and the large majority didn't really care for it. But as social media came about, the company skyrocketed in both popularity and the ridiculous prices they charged people. Social media was the one tool they could use to convince people that their ridiculous products were actually worth buying. Throughout the 21st century, Balenciaga has had a pretty steady rise in popularity, but it wasn't until 2015, where Georgian fashion designer Dem became the artistic director for the company, where the problems really began, and the company became infamous for their controversies rather than their clothing. Their shows and campaigns were not even treated as shows anymore. They were more of a goldmine of clips that people could take, repost, and make fun of. And I don't blame them. It was getting ridiculous. Extremely oversized clothing, fashion hats that looked like big salad bowls, and models walking in mud. But behind this madness and ridicule, there was a mastermind plan. As you know, these outrageous moments garnered a lot of media attention, and Balenciaga took advantage of this by counting on the outrage to fuel their brand. Balenciaga pushed the limits each and every time, slowly getting more and more outrageous, even redesigning a 99-cent IKEA shopping bag and selling it for upwards of $2,000 and justifying it by calling it fashion. It all started when Balenciaga published a campaign near the start of November 2022 called the Balenciaga Gift Shop, which oddly enough now has an eerie ring to it. Let me explain. The main photographer for this campaign was a man called Gabriele Galimberti, who had never before actually worked in the fashion industry, but had a lot of experience in documentary-style photo projects, such as Toy Stories, which involved children. The start of the relationship between Balenciaga and the photographer began when he was directly approached by the brand, as they were a fan of his work. The photographer, Gabriele Galimberti, stated that they basically told me, "Demna found your book and loved your style, and we want to work with you." According to the statement, Balenciaga had clear intent to involve this man in their project, and had premeditated intention. Fast forward to November 16th when the project was actually complete, and images of 6 children holding destroyed teddy bear handbags with fishnet tops, spiked dog collars, and other inappropriate items were released. The internet lost their minds. The images depict the BDSM style leather look of accessories on this teddy bear, but not only this, but Balenciaga had children to model them. But rather than accepting the blame for these despicable acts, they doubled down. In a separate ad that dropped later that month, a bag from Balenciaga's collaboration with Adidas was photographed on top of copies of what appeared to be documents from the Supreme Court case United States vs. Williams, with a ruling that upheld the Protect Act, which was an act that increased federal protection against child pornography. This sparked a lot of theories and made people wonder why Balenciaga was so eager to involve the idea of children, and why they would include carefully placed documents that talked about child pornography. What was really going on behind the scenes? But this wasn't the end of the questions, and as you're about to see, things get a lot worse. These very same images, if they weren't already bad enough, included a book by a man named Michael Borman. His book included extremely graphic and insensitive images of children, and whose work has been described as toddlers engaging in playful but mysterious acts with sinister overtones and insinuations of violence. Why would they include this? There were too many things going wrong at a carefully planned out photo shoot for this to be a coincidence. As this influx of controversies began to flow through all the different algorithms, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, people began to put the pieces together, and as the negative attention the mistakes had brought them increased, they finally decided to throw out a basic apology on November 24th for the images they released in their campaigns.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
But instead of taking accountability for their actions in these apologies, the company announced that they were taking the matter seriously by pursuing legal actions against the parties they claimed were liable for the set. They later went on to claim that they somehow had no knowledge of the controversial set, and that it included inappropriate items that they were not aware of. They also stated in their apology that, "We strongly condemn abuse of children in any form. We stand for children's safety and well-being." But this so-called deep-hearted apology completely contradicts the knowledge we're aware of. First of all, We know that Balenciaga has been interested in using media outrage to echo their name through the algorithms. Second of all, it was Balenciaga that reached out to and were personal fans of the photographer that they're now looking to pin the blame on. Third of all, as simple as it may sound, at the end of the day, it's their company. They will always have the final word, whether it's production, fashion, or timing. So their claims about the fact that these disturbing images went right under their noses just doesn't seem believable at all. It was starting to look like Balenciaga had once again been looking to push the boundaries and see what they could get away with, but once they realized it had gone too far, they blamed the people that they personally searched out for and hired. It doesn't make sense. Once again, in a reach of desperation, Balenciaga followed through with a $25 million lawsuit against the production company North 6 and Nicholas, who designed the set. Now what's interesting is that these documents would state that the production team and designer took inexplicable acts that were reckless. But as we've seen before, Balenciaga tried their absolute best to redirect the heat and attention from themselves to people they decided to hire. So even if, and that's a very big if, Balenciaga was somehow not directly involved with the set, they would still have to take personal responsibility for hiring these individuals. But it keeps getting worse. When asked about why the documents were there in the first place, Balenciaga stated in their November 28th statement that the documents were supposed to be fake. What a funny coincidence. Mr. Nicholas's lawyer stated that there certainly was no malevolent scheme going on, and that Balenciaga representatives were present during the shoot, overseeing it and handling papers and other props. This meant that Balenciaga's previous statement about their lack of involvement in the set had been publicly contradicted yet again. They were clearly aware of what the set looked like and the items included, and even handled the supposed accidental documents. It was getting too much for the brand to handle, and after numerous attempts to save their names, it looked like they finally gave up and issued yet another apology, stating that our plush bear bags and the gift collection should not have been featured with children. This was the wrong choice. But the internet was not ready to forgive and forget. #cancel Balenciaga was trending everywhere. The photographer's address, family, and income were ruined. Weirdly enough, although this created a lot of hate for Balenciaga and caused many normal people on Twitter to speak up against it, it seems very odd and hypocritical that many celebrities didn't speak up against this. As you may know, days before this entire situation unfolded, Balenciaga cut ties with Ye after he made some questionable comments in an interview, and many celebrities such as the likes of Kim Kardashian had a lot to say about the situation and how they disapproved and had zero tolerance for things like that. But now that the situation with Balenciaga had occurred, which was much worse, none of them had anything to say, and if they did, it was a basic comment that almost seemed to dull the severity of the situation. Kim Kardashian even stating that she wanted to speak to the team about the situation before making assumptions. But when it was Ye up on the chopping block, multiple celebrities, brands, and Kim Kardashian herself had no mercy at all. After the images had been released, this is what Ye had to say.
They tried to destroy me in press. They tried to destroy all of my businesses at the same time, and the world saw it, and no one's saying anything. You know, as far as like none of the celebrities, so this just shows you all celebrities are controlled. You don't see no celebrities talking about the Balenciaga situation, right? So that just shows you all of these celebrities out here, don't let them influence you in any way, because they're controlled by the people who really influence the world.
It really makes us wonder, why aren't they speaking up? Are they really controlled? What's really happening behind the scenes? Many have even tried to boycott the brand, burning their Balenciaga clothes and throwing them out. But what people fail to realize is that the people who actually own Balenciaga are a parent company called Kering. Kering also own other luxury brands such as Gucci, Alexander McQueen, Saint Laurent, Bottega Veneta, and more. Kering's CEO is a billionaire named Francois-Henri Pinault. Some have even decided to investigate his dodgy past. So what generally ends up happening is that people throw away their Balenciaga owned clothes and instead spend money on brands like Gucci, essentially putting money in the same people's pockets. So the question we've got to ask ourselves is, how far does this rabbit hole go? Does it ever end? How sadistic and sick does it get? Only time will tell.